I knew I was gonna jinx myself. I knew it. Fish. Nice weed, eh, Matt? Nice Georgian Bay smallmouth. It's a giant. Yes.
Right behind it, right behind it. Swim bait. Yes. Yes!
Need to Fish, brought to you by Suzuki Motors, available at Marsh's Marina.
So we're back out with Matt again. Last time you seen us, it was snowing, it was raining, it was cold. We had toques on, floater jackets, gloves, and we still caught some fish. So it's a little later on in the season, sun's shining, some leaves on the trees. We're gonna go out and see if we can bang onto some big pike again today. A little better weather, eh, Matt?
Yeah, you know what? And going from when we were out last time, that was opening day out here on Georgian Bay. Now we're post-spawn conditions, so these fish have moved out a little deeper, and they're a little more interested in eating, not more defending. So it should be a great day.
So they've had their spawn. They're starting to eat up, right? Fill back up, put some more weight on. So
move into their summer patterns.
Exactly, right? So we're gonna go fish some drop-offs right here in Midland Bay. We haven't got a lot of time, but we're gonna go out and see if we can catch a few fish. Get out there and do that, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So we just left Bayport Yachting Center's gas dock, and we haven't gone about, I don't know, a mile and a half up the bay. When I used to guide on this bay 150 days a year, I used to come out here when we had some bad weather to start here right here at Jeffrey's Bay, and used to catch some of the biggest pike that guys used to go up to Perry Sound to catch. So we're gonna fish it. There's a drop off out of 6 foot into about 14 foot. Because how clear the water's been the last 8 or 9 years, some really nice weed growing on that bottom tier of that 14-foot drop off. Those fish will pull out, like Matt said earlier, getting a little deeper water, they're gonna wanna eat. I'm gonna chuck some pretty big spinner baits at them and see what we can do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go body baits, something just a little different than Brian, keep 2 different presentations out there and see what they eat.
So I'm throwing, this is about 1.5 ounce spinner bait with 2 big willow leaf orange and white blades on it with an orange and white skirt. This is made by a company called Blackfly Lures. Probably one of the best pike baits on Georgian Bay. I throw this thing all the time, and I've caught some monster pike as well as some huge muskie with this. So I try to get a little pretty aggressive retrieve with it. We got a nice sunny day, so that white and that orange is going to flash real good in the water. And if the fish are, the water's clear, so the fish will see that coming from a long way. We may have some follow-ups, but by the same token, we can throw back at them and see if we can catch the fish. What are you doing there, Matt?
Okay, so here we have a rib swim bait, and it represents a bait fish in all stages. I like the purple out here, and you Texas rig it. Let me show you what that is just quickly. Feed the nose over the top of the hook, poke it out the other side, slide it, rotate it 180 degrees. So your back is over the point. Feed it up over the bend, stick the hook back in over the top, back down. Since we're fishing with the weed out here, this will be weedless, so I can let it sink right to the bottom and pull it through that vegetation down below, make it look like a dying bait fish. See if we can catch something.
So Matt's just working us into the shoreline here. There's a sandbar here that, as you can see all the nice cottages on Midland Point here. There's some nice beach here, and the sand comes out, come out a fair distance. And then it drops off into about, like I said, about 12 to 14 foot of water. The weeds grow nice because the water's really clear, and it's a good ambush point. We have out here what we call the gap, so the wind blows progressively from the west down the gap, and this is an awesome spot for the predator fish to be holding on, and there's a nice break there at the point that the bait fish will get in behind the point if the wind's blowing at all, and pack into this bay and make for easy pickings for some big bite. So we were on the boat there, I don't know, 4 weeks ago, opening day of pike season, May 1st on Georgian Bay. Again, it was raining and cold and snowing, and since then, Matt shows up with his boat this morning, and I noticed you got 2 brand new acquirements on the front of your boat. Tell me about those, will you?
Yeah, these are 2 Raymarine Dragonfly Pro units, and what the Pros equipped you to do is mapping, down vision, and regular sonar. The reason why I put 2 of them on is, as you can see here, we're running 1 map so I can follow the transition of that sand flat throughout the bay, and then I can watch the sonar on the other 2 screens to see what's going on in the water. Now, big misconception there of a fish finder versus sonar, right, Brian?
Yeah.
A lot of people sit there and think, oh, it's the sonar that goes and finds the fish for you. Not necessarily it. We're not using this to find fish, although they do show up, but we're looking for structure. Whether that be weeds, rocks, stumps, just what's down below that we can't see, that helps us see.
Sometimes even a subtle transition on the bottom. I know you've spent a lot of time in Lake Erie, because they have a trophy season down there right now, and it amazed me the first time I fished that body of water, how many times, guys, we going along watching the sonar, and you'd see a little wee bump on the bottom and stop right here. I'm like, there's nothing there. Sure enough, drop down tube jig and whack 10 4-pound bass off of it. So I mean, the units have come a long way in the last little while, and I think that it's made it a lot easier for people to target and catch fish.
Well, it's leveled the playing field.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. And it's amazing talking about Lake Erie there. I fish a lot of Lake Ontario as well, and here we are, Lake Huron, Georgian Bay. The types of structure that you look for different fish vary from water body to water body. So here you have a lot of rock shelf, shoals.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're looking for shell beds and sand transitions in Lake Ontario. And Lake Erie is just a lot of nothing, mud to sand. It's pretty much about it, some shale.
Well, and stuff you would take for granted on a body of water like Lake Huron, Georgian Bay, where there's rocks and there's weeds and there's humps and there's stuff everywhere. A body of water like I said, Lake Erie, right? You get one little bump and all the fish in the lake are on that one bump, right? So what's the water temperature, Matt, compared to the last time me and you were boating?
71F, and it was 48, I think, last time we were out. So it's at high 20 degree temperature change.
Well, and we've had since then, that week was still a little unseasonably cool, but since then we've had some 30, 35 degree days, not a lot of wind, so the water's had a lot of time to warm up. Matty, this doesn't look...
Look at, there's a lot of stuff going on down there.
Yeah.
You know what, everyone starts out with entry level, right? There's very few people that can go in and drop the amount of money it takes to have a fully rigged tournament fishing rig. And there's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't too long ago I was fishing out of a 16 and a half foot small aluminum with just a little 3-inch graph on the front, and you kind of build up, and as you get the experience and understand the technology, that's the biggest thing, then it'll help you.
Well, the other side of that too is, a guy with an entry-level boat or wants to get out and do some fishing, right? Go spend $33 on a set of maps, right? good pair of polarized glasses and a hat, I mean, you can, if you know what you're looking for, you've read on the internet that I need to be fishing drop-off transition areas. If you know how to read a map, and we should go into that sometime this season, is to show people how to read a map, and what the light blue, the dark blue, and the white is on a Canadian hydrographic chart. And I mean, you can pinpoint some areas, right? Like we're fishing this sandbar transition here. I mean, if you got a set of polarized glasses, you can absolutely see where the light turns to dark, right? Which would indicate to you that that would be the drop-off, right?
Well, going back to that, I did an entire seminar series this year on pre-fishing without even leaving your bedroom. So you can sit on your laptop, and between Google Maps, online mapping, and reading forums, you don't have to be on the water to learn a lot about it.
I don't think so. Oh man, what happened? Ah. Okay. What happened? I lost my trailer hook on my spinnerbait. That's never a good thing, especially when you're fishing pike. There's a little rubber stopper that goes on the eyelet of the hook that goes on the top of this hook. It keeps it on this hook, and they wear out from moving in the water, and it must have just popped off on casting. I will. We're going to move though. We're on the north side of Midland Bay. We're going to jet over to the south side of Midland Bay, down near the mouth of the Wye River, and see if we can, another one of my haunts over this last many years, we're going to see if we can maybe scare up a pike or two over there. Okay, so we jetted across south, across Midland Bay. We're right at the mouth of the Wye River. Wye Heritage Marina is just off to my right here. We're fishing much the same area. There's a nice flat out here. Water's gone up considerably in the last 3 or 4 years. That island right there where you see that little bit of grass stuff used to be right out of the water.
Well, every green marker that you see there was a rock that used to be out of the water.
Absolutely. So there's rocks in there. There's a great transition area. Same as what we were fishing over there. It drops off, right? So we're gonna go and see if we can maybe scare up a pike or two here. So I'm still throwing my orange and white spinnerbait. I've caught a ton of big pike on this body of water with this bait every different time of the year. So it's not that it's a seasonal specific baits, as some baits are. Like I said, I've had really, really good luck with it.
So throwing a different type of spinnerbait from Brian. This is an inline Mepps number 4 in a perch color. Number 5, I'm sorry. And it's been beat up quite a bit, so that means it works. Just a little smaller profile to see if we can get anything to eat it.
So I just want to bring something up from our last episode that the score is 5-0, 5 Brian, 0 for Matt. So I just want to, maybe encourage him that maybe.
I think it's 4-0.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's 5. We caught an incidental fish, remember?
So did I.
Oh, maybe, yeah. So it's 5-1.
You know what? Let's take the incidentals out of it.
Okay, 4-0.
4-0 I will take. Fish.
Weren't acceptable. Oh, Matt's got a fish on. Oh, there you go. Oh, not bad. I knew I was going to jinx myself. I knew it.
Thank you, Brian.
4-2.
Now again, much like the same size of fish in which we were catching last time. He ate it a little better than what the fish were last time, but that's because of the warmer water. Nice little fish, northern. Great to come out here, easy for the kids to catch. Fun, thank you. Getting me on the board.
So back to what I was saying, I found myself, honestly, having to change my presentation and areas that I fish now that the water's gone up. You know, those areas like I was talking about when we first pulled in here, you know, there was rocks out of the water. Now those rocks actually come into play at bass season because they're cover for fish on a sand flat. Where when those rocks were out of the water and it was just sand, wasn't such an an attractive spot for the fish to go up to. So, and I think a lot of people, you know, I still get people ask me all the time, oh yeah, I was, you know, walleye fishing, or I was pike fishing, or I was bass fishing in a spot, and where I used to catch them all the time and I'm not catching them anymore. Well, you know, when the water went down, I used to say to guys all the time, I said, you need to move out. If you always caught fish in, you know, 6 to 10 foot of water, you're now fishing in 3 or 4. So now, right, you say to guys, remember when you asked me 10 years ago about, go back to those spots you used to fish, and you'll probably catch them. And sure enough, you know, you get reports back from guys, you were right, caught a bunch of fish there the other day. So it's, you know, you really need to keep an eye on be mindful of the water level, and be mindful of, you know, weeds that are growing in different areas now that the water's up. And maybe there's spots that used to fish weed edges that they're not growing anymore because there's no light penetration, because the water's just deep enough that it's preventing the weeds from growing in that area.
Well, one thing that I've noticed on every body of water I've been on this year so far is that temperature change that happens so quick is really muddying up a lot of the water.
Yep, absolutely.
All that dirt warming up, pushing itself up and not falling back down.
Well, I think also what's happened is that it's warmed up so quick, the weeds are taking their time to emerge out of that mud, and just boat disturbance and fish.
Nope. Weed clump.
Just the, you know, prop disturbance and the water movement's dirty and up because there's nothing to hold it down. There's nothing seated in the mud, right? About the same size as the last one, Matt.
A little bigger, maybe.
Maybe the chartreuse colors, a little bigger, eh?
Nice back on them.
Yeah. Nice fish.
Run up to that's good fish, Brian.
Yeah. Got that trolling motor. Good. Nice colors. Good slime coat on it, so the fish is definitely healthy. A little bigger than the one Matt had, not too much bigger, but a little bigger. 6'1". So I've toned it down a little bit. That's a chartreuse. There's a willow blades. Chartreuse and white head, and a chartreuse and white skirt. Still got a trailer hook on it, but that's a half-ounce spinnerbait versus an 1.5 ounces like the big one I was throwing earlier. Again, Matt got one on a chartreuse, so I thought I'd see what I had tied on, and of course I had a chartreuse and white, and it seemed to be effective. It's pretty much the same thing that's the other spinnerbait. It's just it's a little lighter, so you can keep it up on the top of the surface a little more than, you know, 1.5 ounces. You really got to crank it, or it'll sink. This year, you don't have to crank it as much, and you can keep it. You know, we can suspend it through the column for sure. And he didn't tear it up too much. Line's good. I always like to check your line after catching a pike. Make sure that I'm using mono, which a lot of guys fret on because pike can chew that up pretty quick, but it works very well throwing it on a little lighter bait casting outfit.
I ain't got the blues today.
See, the crazy thing is, I need to catch, like, to win a tournament out here now, bass fishing, I need to catch the 3 biggest fish I've ever caught on Georgian Bay.
Hey, I caught another fish. That's a baby pike. Another one.
I ain't got the blues today.
Live release.
Still counts.
That, oh, no. Now Matt's saying that didn't count because we didn't get it in the boat.
No, that counts.
Okay.
Leader touch, like we're tarpon fishing.
Oh, yeah, great. So I was talking about pike nick in the line. There's a nick in the line and there's about 10 feet of line above that. You know, I may have been reeling in and touched the side of the boat or dragged over a log that far up the line. You really got to take a good keen look when you're pulling your line back in to make sure there's no nicks in it. So there's one right there. Just take it out of there. Make sure that's nothing worse than getting a fish on, setting the hook, and then snapping your line off, 8 and 9 feet up the. Right, Matt?
That's how you lose money.
It's even worse when it snaps off. It's got a burr in it. It snaps off inside your reel. So I'm gonna tie this back on. So what I normally do is run that through the loop. And I run it through there again, so it makes 2 loops. Right? Give it about 5 or 6 good twists. Because I'm using a copolymer line, I like to wet that up so that it doesn't, when you pull down on it, create some friction, it doesn't burn the coating off the line. Now we're ready to go. I'm just trying to give Matt some chances here, but he's just not taking up on it. I don't know what to...
You know what? And this will go for the both of us. Once we start bass fishing,
Yeah.
our numbers are going to be climbing exponentially.
Absolutely. As long as my number's higher than yours, I'm all good.
You know what? If I got to cook you dinner at the end of the season, I think I'm okay with that too.
All right.
You know something I've never done here and I think we should do it?
What's that?
Some late season muskie fishing.
Oh, absolutely. So you seen us 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, dressed up the way we're dressed up. Well, you're dressed up that way all the time in late season muskie fishing. But you get some days, I've had some 23, 24 degrees Celsius days in November out in the lake, and that's usually the day that the fish turn on. They go on that last big feeding frenzy, right? So I see you're jerking your rod there. What do you've changed baits?
Yeah,
right?
we've changed, we've kind of, to get the bites, we've had to slow down. You were talking about slowing down the retrieve on the spinnerbait. With a jerk bait, you can actually stop it and it suspends, it'll sit there. So I was just wondering if the fish are following, which we have seen a couple,
Yeah.
will they eat when the bait stops?
Stop.
Bone cutter, pointer SP, straight to braid. I don't run a leader on a jerk bait. The fish tend to hit it right here. The way that the line will get nicked is in their gills or on the boat. So just play them carefully and it should be a pretty clean catch.
So it's coming to the end of the fishing day. Pretty nice day to be out in the lake. Last time we were out, it was raining, it was snowing, it was cold. I don't have gloves on, I have a hat on to keep the sun off my bald head. But the fishing was pretty good. Tally now, 6 for me, 1 for Matt. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up our pike episode for this episode of Need to Fish.
When I was just a young one, maybe pushing 10.